be slightly off, but oh shoot, I just missed that. Whatever. We don't even need to know about that notification. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, everyone out there, we were not here last Tuesday, but we are back this Tuesday. It is none other than the Primetime Podcast, episode number 66. And let me tell you, what another lovely day in the world of every single team making sloppy business decisions. And it is none other than me, your host with the most, Philip, the Situation White, to talk about what's going on in that world. We're going to be talking a couple franchise tag players today. One franchise tag, one with the used very rarely transitioned tag. We saw a high-profile quarterback officially get released. And, of course, because we did it yesterday, I enjoyed it a lot going over a little Bleacher Report top 99 quarterbacks. Why not today go into, released earlier today, Bleacher Report's 3-round mock draft. Picks 1 through 100, the first 100 picks of their expectations, of course. Bleacher Report's not known for making the best things, but who knows? Maybe they got it right this time. I'm always willing to have faith in the sports world and my fellow sports world fanatics being able to, eventually figure something out, I'm sure. One of these times, it's coming and it's on its way. I have faith. The faith that I do have. I have faith that something's going to happen. Because you got to. You got to have faith in your fellow journalists. You got to have faith and your fellow sports commentators that hopefully one of these times they are in fact going to figure it out. Now, will they? That's what we're going to find out right now. So, without further ado, there are two major tags that we have to talk about to kick off the offseason, as well as two non-tags that I'll get into a little bit as well. But the major first tag on the board that I saw that really caught my eye, so to speak, is the New York Jets and their franchise tag of Breece Hall. So a couple things to note about this in particular. Breece Hall, of course, is a very exceptional running back. We've seen him play for the last 4 years. He's had some up and down moments, of course, with significant knee injuries, derailing some of his success. But overall, very solid back. No one's going to sit here and deny that. And in fact, this year, he put up his first 1,000-yard season, averaged 4.4 yards per carry, had 36 catches. I believe it was, 1,300 scrimmage yards. So, very solid production all around. Here's where the problem comes out for Breece Hall in this case. And it comes from a place of, not really even for Breece Hall, it comes from the Jets. So number one, the Jets placed the franchise tag on him. They clearly want to keep Breece Hall. They want to keep him in the building, and it makes logical sense. He's better than any running back they'll have in that room. He's probably right, at least at this point right now, better than any running back you're going to find in the draft. He's going to be one of the highly sought after running backs if he were to hit free agency, which obviously he's not now, presuming that he is tagged. However, there is one big key distinction that makes this difficult to really process, and it is the fact of the matter that Breece Hall is now going to be making $14 million next year. He's going to be the second highest paid running back in the NFL next year, behind only Christian McCaffrey. And he's not a bad running back. No one's denying that. But the New York Jets are now spending probably too much money on a position that ages quickly, is very replaceable, and they're going to be going into a year next year. Nobody expects them to be contending for an AFC East championship, much less playoff win or a chance to go to the Super Bowl. And they're not close there. They're very much in their rebuilding phase. Why is a running back in the form of Breece Hall going to be an integral part of that? For $14 million next year? Are you going to get a long-term deal done? Why? Right? It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. You're just going to keep Breece Hall trapped in the hellscape that is the New York Jets? I get it. You need to keep your good players, but you had no interest in keeping your other good players. You had no interest in keeping Sauce Gardner. You had no interest in keeping Quinnen Williams. You remember 2 years ago, you trade for Devontae Adams just to move off of him. What was the logic? What was the plan? What was the path forward for Breece Hall at any point? What was the path forward for the Jets? They were going to hold on to him? For what? Why are they holding on to him now? I don't understand why they didn't try harder to shop him at the deadline. Now you're going to invest way too much money into a running back when you can spend that money quite literally anywhere else. You got holes at quarterback. You could certainly improve the guys catching passes opposite Garrett Wilson. You could certainly improve the back end that completely quit on your team for the entire month. You could certainly improve your front line, which you've just seen 2 players in the last 5 months get traded in the form of Quinnen Williams and Jermaine Johnson. Really? And we're now saying $14 million in Breece Hall is what makes the most sense. The only logical thing I could say is that maybe you didn't want to see him go for a pick. So maybe they're franchise tagging him and then wondering if a trade team would maybe make a trade. But I don't think anyone's going to do that, especially for a couple reasons. Number one, Kenneth Walker is now a free agent. You've got Aaron Jones, I believe, is also going to hit free agency at this point, who isn't like, you could argue Aaron Jones is not nearly as good, but a cheaper option. Why would anyone trade to pay Breece Hall $14 million a year when most teams that would trade for him, he's probably not top 5 on the team? Most teams that would want to use him for a real running back in the backfield. It's nothing against Breece Hall. I just think it's very poor management made decisions by the New York Jets who don't understand the fact that Breece Hall is supposed to be going somewhere else this year. The Jets don't benefit from having Breece Hall this coming year. They don't, because they're in no place to win. And you're going to pay, and even if you get to a long-term deal and figure something out, you really think you'd pay him as much as, you're going to pay him as much as CMC? You're going to pay him that much money? I mean, he just had his first 1,000-yard rushing season, and credit to that, but this is not a team that has been able to prove they're good offensively regardless, and you need a good defense to be able to have that good running game, and you just trade away your best defensive players, and now you're stuck paying Breece Hall $14 million. And the main issue is that probably, I'm surprised personally that they just didn't, at the very least, just consider transition tagging him. I mean, that to me feels like a much more logical play than anything else. Breece is good. Breece is certainly good. I think the New York Jets have made an absolutely abysmal mistake by giving him a franchise tag and overpaying him. I think it's a big issue. And now here we are. Breece Hall is now the second highest paid running back in the NFL at $14 million. He's not the same impact player. I think people trying to claim that he's, an impact player like McCaffrey? Absolutely not. Good player? Yes. And top 5 running back? Not really. Top 10? Certainly you can make a case. But not at $14 million a year. Just, there's no benefit there. I'm surprised. They should have tried to trade him in the offseason. Now I think what this is just a futile attempt to keep a player that, again, okay, you're keeping Breece Hall, great. What's he going to provide next year that you didn't already have this past year? I just think, especially with the pool of running backs that will be available, with the running backs that could potentially be available in the draft, why are you holding on to Breece Hall for $14 million a year? For a team that is bad and will unlikely be competing for any sort of title next year. I think it's a crazy tag. I think it's a crazy decision to tag Breece Hall. I don't think it makes any logical or logistical sense. I think you run into trouble there. We'll see how it pans out. But, I mean, again, I don't see this Jets team changing that drastically next year or getting significantly better. Whether Breece Hall is here or not, I don't think it changes much of that. I don't think it changes how much significantly better the Jets are. I think it makes them lose out on a lot of potential other opportunities there. It's not awful to keep him because, again, I think he's a good player. But for $14 million a year, when you could be spending money in other significant areas where you need much more help, it doesn't. I think it doesn't make sense to keep Breece Hall. I don't know how you can have a fire sale of all your players and then somehow keep Breece. That doesn't make sense to me. But the Jets will do what they want, I guess. Woody Johnson will run that ship either into a cliff or into a cave or into the ground, but he's going to run it somewhere. But we'll see how that pans out. I have my doubts. The other major tag that I need to discuss specifically is none other than Daniel Jones. So, for those who also don't know, I believe this was recently, late this afternoon, Daniel Jones was smacked with the transition tag for the Indianapolis Colts. Of course, Daniel Jones was having a career year, and so, of course, against the Jacksonville Jaguars in, I believe, Week 14, goes and tears his Achilles and misses out the rest of the year. But up until that point, the Colts were having one of their baddest seasons they've had in a while. Daniel Jones was a big part of that, playing some very good football, and now the Colts have now decided to transition tag. Now, for those who are unfamiliar with how the transition tag works, it's a little different than the franchise tag. Rather than just having the franchise tag and the team that places the tag in complete control, other teams will have a chance to match the Colts' offer of the transition tag for Daniel Jones, and then the Colts will have their opportunity to respond to that offer. With this, I think this was rather predictable. I think a lot of people were expecting Daniel Jones to not get tagged because the way the transition tag works, I don't know the way the salaries work out, but it's not like those $55 million a year salaries. It's not up that high. And as a result, it allows the Colts to have more flexibility, it allows teams to match. And I don't think anybody's going to match that number. And someone might match the $37 million, but I don't think anyone will really go any higher. Because I believe Daniel Jones' last deal with the Giants was 4 years, $160 million, and that was at $40 million. I don't think anybody really surpasses that number, even with his improved play. I think that's very hard to do, especially for an athletic quarterback coming off a significant leg injury, or ankle injury in this case, like an Achilles. So that can definitely spook some teams off, and I think ultimately, smart play by the Colts to at least transition tag him. I think, right, and the reason especially now, and the reason why the Colts will, I believe, ultimately keep Daniel Jones, even if someone does attempt to match it, is that Indianapolis, when you look at the quarterback market especially, do you really feel more comfortable going out like for a Tua or a Kyler Murray or even a Malik Willis? Like, the idea that Malik Willis is one of the top free agent quarterbacks, and that's only because he was healthy and played very well for like a small stretch of games, right? And he's already commanding $30 million a year. That just tells you how weak not only the quarterback free agent market is, but how weak the draft is. I mean, there will be quarterbacks that will go in the first round, like, say, a Ty Simpson from Alabama, who really doesn't have any business as, like, talent-wise being in the first round. He's not like a proven he's going to be a good first-round player. He's not on that level of these other first-round picks. None of these quarterbacks are. So for the Colts, the logical conclusion is, yeah, they're probably going to hold on to Daniel Jones as tight as possible because they don't have many other options. There are no real better options that you can really confirm. Kyler Murray doesn't feel like a better option. What you got out of Daniel Jones, if he can come back healthy, feels a lot stronger than any other option that would have been out there previously. And I think it works. And I think that it will be fine, presuming Daniel's able to come back at fairly strong strength. At least, like, hopefully you're shooting for like an 80% strength comeback. And I think that would be better than trying to bring in someone like a Kyler Murray who was already hurt last year, or a Tua who significantly underperformed. Daniel's probably their best option. I know no one really wants... I know there are a lot of Malik Willis truthers out there, including myself. But there's just not enough substantial evidence outside of a short run with Green Bay that has me convinced that you should be paying Malik Willis $30 million a year. That is all because it is a bad quarterback draft class and a bad QB free agency class. That Malik Willis is the best option. So, in regards to that, hopefully they can come to like a reasonable deal with Daniel. I would actually like to see him get, because I think if Daniel can play at the level he did during their stretch, during their like 8-1 stretch, if he can play at that level, this Colts team is easily a borderline wild card team. I think it's tough considering the outlook of that division with how good Jacksonville was, with how good Houston's defense is. I think and we'll see what Tennessee ends up looking like. But if you're Indianapolis and you look at the quarterback market, it's really hard to talk your way out into any other option that isn't Daniel Jones. It's very hard to look at Malik Willis in the face and say that's a good option, or Kyler Murray, or Tua Tagovailoa, or I mean, are there really any other ones? Like what Geno Smith I've heard floated around. Like, are you really going to talk yourself into Geno? Probably not. So I think it's a good call. I think Indianapolis placing at least some sort of tag on Danny Dimes makes a lot of sense. I think this one will work. And I think it'll be. I hope he's back fully healthy, because I think again they need some. I mean, honestly, if he comes back and he's even at 80%, isn't there like the argument that he's like better than CJ? Like if we go back and watch the entirety of last year, don't we kind of feel that Daniel Jones played better than CJ Stroud in a lot of moments? Like I'd make the case. I think if you were picking quarterbacks today, you'd probably say a healthy Daniel Jones over CJ Stroud. Of course, the health will factor into it, but you're taking Daniel right now over CJ based on what we saw this year. Just pound for pound, it's not really that close. It'll be 17 Daniel Jones over CJ. So that makes it, at the very least, you have the second best quarterback in the league. And yes, Trevor had a great year last year, but that's only 2 good years. I mean, is Trevor going to continue to improve, or is he going to ceiling off? Colts could still again come out of nowhere next year and impress, I feel, if Daniel Jones is able to be healthy. But that will all remain on, if he does. If he's not, then we have a problem. Before I get into, I kind of want to also get about the Kyler Murray release. There were 2 players today that were confirmed not getting franchise tagged. The first of which being Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker, there was a lot of talk, would Seattle tag him? Would Seattle give him a long-term deal? It is said that Seattle is not going to tag him and that he is going to more than likely either test free agency or maybe Seattle signs him to a long-term deal. But we do know that he is not getting tagged. And this was, to me, I feel like that's a fairly predictable outcome. I understand there may have been some questions with Zach Charbonnet. And, with Zach Charbonnet tearing his ACL, is it more than likely that Kenneth comes back? The reality is they were splitting carries a lot. Like, we can talk about how good Kenneth Walker is, and I think he's very good. I think he's at the least top 10 running back. But when we're talking about the split carries between the two, it wasn't like Kenneth Walker was a workhorse back. And additionally, Kenneth Walker isn't your traditional receiving back either. Like, he's not catching many passes out of the backfield either. So he's not your prototypical modern-day workhorse of a back. So to give him a massive contract and put him into this top 5, or even give him a franchise tag and pay him top 5 running back money, doesn't really make sense because Seattle didn't treat him like he was one. So if you're not going to treat him like he's one, why pay him like he's one? And I think it makes more sense for a team who wants to view Kenneth Walker as a top 5 back and go out and give him top 5 running back money to pay him like that and add him to their roster, as opposed to Seattle doing that and then underutilizing him when Charbonnet gets healthy. Or if they get another running back just to add to that core. Like Seattle's, say Kenneth Walker was good, but it was still much closer to running back by committee than a workhorse back in Walker. So to me, it kind of makes sense that Walker's just walking out the door. I think it makes a lot of sense for Seattle to look for a replacement in the draft, another guy to pair with Charbonnet. Potentially, if Charbonnet is back healthy, have him transition more to the RB1 role, or have even more of a running back by committee. and then Walker gets signed to a needy running back team. Like I was going to say Chiefs, but I think they rely too much on a lot of quick underneath passes, and Walker just doesn't fit that prototypical mold. And again, because of the Super Bowl MVP, you're probably looking at a much larger contract. It's really hard. Maybe Tennessee, maybe the Titans want to fork over that much money. I know they just kind of have had Pollard, but Pollard's kind of underwhelmed, and they miss that bruising style of runner that they had in Derrick Henry. They'd be closer to that with Walker than they ever have with anybody else that's walked in there. So I don't know. I think that could certainly be a fit. I'm just throwing it out there. If Cleveland wanted to fork over money while Quinshon Judkins is recovering, that's another potential option. But someone's going to go out. Someone's going to pay Kenneth Walker. I just don't think it's going to be Seattle based on what we've seen this offseason. It doesn't really make a lot of sense for them to do that because, again, they didn't treat him like that the whole regular season. The other guy that got tagged, or rather not got tagged, stated that he wasn't going to get tagged, was Trey Hendrickson. Now, Trey Hendrickson makes even more sense to not get tagged. Because a couple reasons. Number one, pass rusher money's through the roof. And number two, Trey was not healthy. He got 4 sacks, but he missed 10 games. He only played in 7 games for the Bengals. And right now, Cincinnati, we can agree, has so many holes on their defense. I mean, they've got holes from the foundation to the back end. They've got holes in the front 7. They've got holes in the back end. They've got holes all over their offensive line. And a lot of that money's already being given to Burrow, to T. Higgins, to Jamar Chase. That's a lot of money to be spending there. I don't think you can afford to spend that money now to Trey, who just hasn't been healthy and wasn't significantly high-level performing when he was healthy. So it's more than likely Trey's going to have a new home in 2026. He's not going to get tagged. I don't think they come to a long-term deal because they didn't come to a long-term deal a year ago. So they're probably not going to come to a new long-term deal now. I think Trey Hendrickson's just going to be kind of one of those almost like Khalil Mack ads, like when Khalil Mack got added to the Chargers. It's going to be one of those kind of additions, probably in addition to a team that's trying to either make a bigger leap towards the playoffs or like win more playoff games or try to make a Super Bowl run. Obviously, Trey would probably want to go to a contender. I think that makes a lot of sense. And again, for Cincinnati, there was no reason to keep him. They need to spend that money on their back end. They need to spend that money getting younger pass rushers that are not in their 30s and potentially going to go down with injury for half the season, right? They couldn't afford to invest significant money in Trey Hendrickson on anything, on any long-term deal, much less like a franchise tag, which, again, that's a lot of money to be given for a guy who's 31, going to be 32 in December. Not that that's the end life of pass rushers these days, but it's not enough. You've clearly seen that you need to get better at a lot of different parts. Why are you investing so much money in one player? They're choosing not to do it. I think it's the right decision by Cincinnati. And I think for Trey Hendrickson, there will always be room on a team contender, especially if you are a pass rusher, because that is one of the most important needs for teams trying to make playoff runs, make Super Bowl runs. It's essential because it's the best way to generate turnovers, is getting pressures on quarterbacks. We know Trey Hendrickson is capable of that. We know he's capable of rushing the passer. I mean, really, any team that's trying to make a run could benefit from him. Any team that you think is a division winner. Like, you could put him on the Eagles and have him pass rush with them. You can put him in New England, try to have New England get more of a pass rush bite. You could put him in Jacksonville if Jacksonville wants to try to increase their pass rush. Put someone next to Josh Hines-Allen. You could really put these pass rushers anywhere because you can never be shy a pass rusher. You can always get more pass rushing help because if you have, let's say you have 2 guys who are already really good starters who rush the passer, then when they come out and you have 2 more pass rushers who can not only rush the passer, but also are rare and ready off the bench to go, just ready to blast by any tackle because they're rested, and it just creates, the more pass rushes you have, just the better it's going to be. And then, of course, if you need to move one, you can move one because you are strong at the position anyway. So I think it's one of the few positions where it's very good to stack up on. Like, it's okay to have 4, even 5 guys who are capable of getting that rush, whether it's power, whether it's speed, whether it's on the inside, because it's critical to generating winning, to increasing your win probability. It's critical to increasing your winning probability. You just you have more chance of generating turnovers and making errant passes and getting longer down in distances. It's mission critical. So that's basically my thoughts on those tags. I think most of them outside of the Breece Hall franchise tag make a lot of sense. I don't get the idea of keeping Breece, but I do understand wanting to keep Daniel considering the quarterback market. I understand the Seahawks wanting to move off Kenneth Walker, or just not necessarily move off, but just not pay him as much as people would expect. And I also 100% get the Bengals moving off Trey Hendrickson. All 3 of those moves make logical sense to me. Breece Hall, not so much, but I've been wrong before. The next big headline, of course, we had one quarterback get transition tagged, and we had another quarterback, Kyler Murray. The Cardinals releasing Kyler Murray, setting him out free, setting the bird free out of its cage. For a first-round pick, so far, the Cardinals and Kyler Murray have just underwhelmed significantly. For a number one, when you have a number 1 overall pick at quarterback, there are expectations where eventually, if you build things the right way, things will work out. Like, that's what we're hoping that maybe like someone like Cam Ward will be able to do that for the Titans, Fernando Mendoza, hopefully for the Raiders in the next few 4 to 5 years. The Kyler Murray Cardinals just completely petered out. He was electric. He was exciting. He got better. He really got better each of his first 3 years. Like, if you're sitting here, like, when you think about Kyler Murray in his first 3 years from 2019, 2020, and then 2021, Kyler Murray improved as a quarterback. You got to see him throw the ball. You got to see him be more effective. You got to see his athleticism at play. And then after 2021, he just either wasn't fully healthy or he completely just overall plateaued as a quarterback. Like, there wasn't enough there for Kyler Murray to take this team. And with all due respect, it's not for a lack of... I do not believe it is for a lack of talent or coaching or whatever. Cliff Kingsbury got them... They got into the playoffs. They got into a playoff game. They had started that season incredibly hot, and then the season kind of falls off. And that's kind of been Kyler's thing. Kyler was... when we look at this, looking at it from 2019 to 2021, he improved at every single metric. He was improving his completion percentage. He's improving in his passer rating. He had 100.6 passer rating in 2021 when the Cardinals made the playoffs. And then ever since, he kind of just plateaued. He wasn't nearly as effective in his completion percentage. I think his best season was last year probably. And then this year, he just wasn't healthy. And for an undersized quarterback, no one's going to commit to that for that long. It was six years. It was 6 years of a number 1 overall pick that they had already paid that was significantly underwhelming on his contract. And I get why they bought in. I really do. I get why they bought into Kyler Murray because he's still incredibly talented. Like, when you watch some of Kyler Murray's highlights, his ability to run around, his ability to make deep ball, beautiful throws down the sideline, he has talent. He's got tremendous talent. But the understanding, and I've been critical of this, and I'm not the only person to call this out, Kyler just doesn't... It's not that he doesn't fit the mold of many quarterbacks. It's that he doesn't do the little things that quarterbacks do. A lot of the tough quarterbacks, even in let's say the 2010s, 2000s of the Bradys, the Mannings, the Big Bens, the Breezes, the Rodgers, even guys like Eli Manning and Phillip Rivers, who maybe people think are over or underrated depending on your outlook. Those guys stood statuesque, strong in the pocket, took shots, took chest shots, shoulder shots, head shots, and still were striking guys over the middle, stepping into those throws, not worried to take a hit, understanding that could be the difference in the game. And I watch Kyler so many times, and he crumbles in the pocket when there's a guy there. He'll usually try to run first, and then if he can't get away, he'll take the sack. You're leaving yardage on the field. It's so disappointing to see that when he's not you got to be able to deliver strikes. I mean, especially when you look at the collection of pass catchers you have. When you're talking about a Trey McBride, when you're talking about a Marvin Harrison Jr., when you're talking about a Michael Wilson, there are guys out there that you can complete passes to. You can get the ball rolling. Even Jacoby Brissett found some offense there, despite the fact that he's been very much a backup for years. It's just at the end of the day, if you're the Arizona, and listen, Arizona's at fault here a little bit too. They didn't build up the perfect offensive line. They weren't. Cliff Kingsbury probably should have. I don't even understand really the Jonathan Gannon hire. I was never a big fan of Gannon coming in there because you don't need a defensive head coach. You need an offensive guy to figure out what's going on with your quarterback. And Arizona's had their struggles too. When you're a number one overall pick, there's got to be a certain level of commitment. You can't disappear after October. You just can't. And it happened all the time with these Kyler Murray Cardinals. It happened 2 years in 2024 when they were It was 6-4, 7-4. They fell off the face of the earth. It happened in 2021 when they had an incredible start to the year, fell off in the later months, and then got blasted in that wild card round. It's a trend. It was a trend with Kyler Murray in Arizona. I personally think he's incredibly talented. I want him to shake off some of those problems. I want him to probably go to like a team like the Vikings. I think the Vikings are an incredible fit because of what Kevin O'Connell's capable of. They need to get away from J.J. McCarthy. And I think if you don't feel confident in Malik Willis, and I'm going to be honest, with so few games, it's hard to get a handle on him being good. I really do believe that at the end of the day, if we're talking, say, getting a quarterback, Kyler is probably your best option, one of your better fits in the Minnesota Vikings offense. It's a shame. It's a shame to see that the Cardinals and Kyler have gotten to this point. But to act like there's not a large portion of it on Kyler kind of being distant and Kyler not really buying in at times, and the Arizona Cardinals making bad management decisions and bad coaching decisions. Hard to say who's at fault. I think it's probably a classic story of Cardinals didn't do enough to build around him, and Kyler did not do enough to elevate the team that he had. I got to tell you, I'm probably leaning the first one. I'm probably leaning, listen, Kyler doesn't know truly what's up there, and I think that's where the problems would lie. Mizaki Felix. Yo, what's up, man? I haven't seen, you knew, man. Hey, if you knew, go ahead, click that like and subscribe, man. Appreciate you pulling out, saying, LOL, obvious you don't watch the Cardinals because they never built around them correctly. Listen, I don't need, I've watched a lot of football. I'll tell you right now, I've watched that Arizona team. Surely they didn't have an offensive line. They didn't do enough. But I'm going to tell you also at the same time, if you're Kyler Murray, you're a number one overall pick. At the end of the day, there is building around, but you need to be able to elevate your guys. Because there are some number one overall picks that do not elevate their players nearly as much. Okay, when you talk about being the number one overall pick in the draft, that's kind of the point. When you are a number one overall pick in any draft, the idea is you are supposed to be a transcendent player. You are supposed to be at a certain point where you are far and away able to transcend and change a team. And Kyler never did that. You're a number one overall pick. Look at the difference in what Joe Burrow is able to do, even with an awful organization. That team had no business getting to a Super Bowl, and Joe Burrow did that in his first fully healthy season. The quarterback taken right before him. Right after him in 2020. Turned that organization around in the first season he was fully healthy, right? So again, I don't get the point as to why Kyler Murray, I get it, you need to build around your quarterback and give him pieces, but don't tell me that Kyler Murray didn't have help. They brought in a legitimate running back in James Conner. They had an incredible tight end in Trey McBride. They went out and got Marvin Harrison Jr., he was just never able to get on the same page with. And look at what Michael Wilson was doing this year when Jacoby Brissett was throwing him the ball. The fact that they didn't build around him, yeah, they did. They went out and got DeAndre Hopkins. They went out and made a trade to go get him a better playmaker. They didn't give Kyler Murray playmakers. Did they struggle on the offensive line a few times? Yeah, a little bit. But they still went out and paid money there. And again, as a number one overall pick, you have a responsibility to elevate that franchise. Like, I would even argue Baker Mayfield has elevated Cleveland to be able to win a playoff game. That's tough to do. If you're going to be a number 1 overall pick, and if you're especially at the quarterback position, you have a responsibility to elevate the players around you, the staff that's there, the organization as a whole. And if you're not doing that, then I'm going to tell you right now, you're probably not worth being the number 1 overall pick. And looking back at the 6 years we've seen, yeah, pretty darn obvious he shouldn't have been. I hope Kyler Murray will get another shot, but at the end of the day, to expect to be able to pay Kyler Murray in that moment and say he should have been the guy, that they should have done a better job building around him, they gave him pieces. He wasn't throwing who was it? It was like he was throwing to Jalen Polk, or it wasn't like he was throwing to Roman Wilson. Okay, it wasn't like he was throwing to, oh my God, Griff Whalen. Like, he had pieces there. And despite all of that, just not nearly enough, apparently, for Kyler. I'm not going to say they were perfect, but they didn't not build around him. They gave him some pieces to work with. Kyler just could never capitalize. I saw enough. There's just not much there. I hope he succeeds in Minnesota, which is I presume he's going to go, because if he goes anywhere else, I don't think that's a good option, right? Because you're not going to go to the Jets. I think, honestly, the Jets have a worse, certainly not a better coach. I don't like Aaron Glenn, and I'm not going to sit here and try to talk myself into gumbo Garrett Wilson, especially when that's your best pass catcher. You had literally the best tight end in the league on the Cardinals. Like, I'm not going to say you didn't have nobody. Now you're going to go into, New York is an option, but I doubt it. Minnesota, I think, is the best. And I don't think Indianapolis is off the table because of Daniel Jones. Minnesota's your best chance, Skyler. You want to have a shot? Go play with the Minnesota Vikings. Go play with Justin Jefferson and figure it out there. Because you're done in Arizona. It's a little bit over, ain't it? Regardless, I hope he does find something. The last thing I need to get into a little bit is, in particular, so Bleacher Report, as we know, Bleacher Report does their own little, they do a lot of their stuff. Yesterday, I went into the top 99 quarterbacks, of all time list that they made. A ridiculous list. It made me crash out. So I figured today, what better thing to do than to go into their entire mock draft that they just released, I think, today. Now, I haven't spent a whole lot of time around the draft, or around combine stuff, but they just released this post-combine. I'm just going to take a look at it. I'm mostly going to be looking at the first round. I'll skim through because I don't think they do a full list of the second round or third round. But I'm interested to see where they have guys going, because I've heard reports the Steelers are looking for contingency plans in the draft. I think they're looking at Simpson. They're looking at Beck. They mentioned one other name. I don't think it was Nussmeier. I think it was someone else. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, and I don't know off the top of my head, but I know Beck and Simpson were talked about as potential. And also, can I say something? There was something that bothered me at the Combine. Indiana fans who booed Carson Beck, really? You guys won. It's not like you were robbed and Beck was a jerk about winning. You beat Miami. Why you gotta boo the guy when he's just trying to work out at a combine? You won. You have it all. You are national champions. What is your deal? It's not like that's I don't think it's all of a sudden a rivalry just because you beat them in the national championship. You won. It doesn't make any sense. But anyway, I'm going to pull it up right now. This is the mock that they have. Bleacher Report's never particularly good, so obviously this is grain of salt type level, but I am interested to see what they had up here. So, number one I did see from them, Fernando Mendoza makes obvious sense. It's such a weak quarterback. What do they call it? It's just such a weak QB market, as I had mentioned earlier. It doesn't really make logical sense for the Raiders to ever pass on Mendoza. Although I will say, if the Raiders find a way to pass on Mendoza, I think it'll be one of the funniest things ever. I think it'll just be absurdly funny if somehow the Raiders decide, yeah, you know what? We're passing on Mendoza, and then all of a sudden the Jets just like drop their jaws to find out that they have a chance to draft Mendoza. But that was pretty funny. Jets, David Bailey? Oh my gosh. What? I thought it was going to be Reese. We don't think Arnell Reese is going too? You think it's Bailey? I mean, I guess. I guess. Why? This particular selection seemed destined for a defensive pick since the New York Jets are not in position to select quarterback. We know that. Thanks to defined evaluation at a premium position. Need another edge rusher. Just get Reese. Just get the best player available. Why are we going for David Bailey? I'm not saying he's bad, but just go for Reese? Okay. Arvil Reese at 3. Yeah, this is who I would have. I don't know why Arizona's doing that. I mean, I get it. You need help on defense. But other than that, I would just trade back. I think for Arizona, I think your biggest own need, if you really. I would want to protect whoever's throwing the football, all things considered. If I'm Mike LaFleur, I'm getting an offensive player. I mean, obviously, if Arvil Reese falls to 3, because I don't think the Jets take Bailey. I think they're probably leaning towards Reese. At least I would. I would expect Arizona to take it. Like, I would argue Arizona would try like not a wide receiver like Carnell Tate, but potentially trade back into the teens and try to get one of the lower linemen. It's just that there's not. I understand the linemen are not the best, like the beauty of this class. I think it's a lot of more like hyper athletic defensive players. But if I'm Arizona, I would probably want to protect whatever quarterback I have, so I don't have to deal with the Kyler Murray crap later down the line. It just doesn't really make sense to me. Sonny Styles shooting up the board to the 4 to the Titans. This again, his on-field assessment already signaled first. It's likely in the top 15. That's crazy. Sonny Styles, I think, had to be one of the biggest winners of the draft combine, just because. I mean, everything, all of his measurables, all the stuff he was running, like, yeah, that was probably the biggest winner. But 4 still seems high. And I understand Sonny Styles. I guess the selection would make sense if you're picking from Robert Saleh's perspective. You want to make sure you have your side of the ball right, which is the defense, obviously. It would make Tennessee very interesting, because I think competing in that division, you have 2 options. You need Cam Ward to get better, and you also need to make your defense make C.J. Stroud look like poopy buns, which shouldn't be hard. And then you'll be able to get after Trevor Lawrence. You'll be able to get after Trevor Lawrence and presumably Daniel Jones. So I don't hate it. Although it does bother me that they're still saying, yeah, the Titans not going to pick an offensive player. That kind of bothers me. New York Giants at 5 would take Francis Maiawago, Miami. On the opposite of Andrew Thomas, I presume, right? Because you're going to have him on the other side. I don't hate that. And that makes a lot of sense. You want to protect your guys. You want to help out both Dart and Scadaboo. I don't hate that. I don't hate improving the offensive line. I do think they have to figure out what they're going to do on the back end, but if they want to fix their offensive line, why not? And he even says right here, like tackle or guard. So far, Bleacher Report not convincing me. Maybe they actually know what they're talking about. I don't know. Or maybe I just don't know what I'm talking about. We both don't know what we're talking about. Brown, Spencer Fano. Honestly, also makes sense, but I mean, I guess it makes sense. But if you're Cleveland, I mean, Cleveland's offensive line is going to be atrocious next year. Like, that's not even an argument. Cleveland's offensive line is going to be bunk. Like, maybe Spencer Fano's good, but I mean, they just went out and paid Titus Howard that much money when he was one of the most mediocre tackles in the league. Not even mediocre. He was 100% below average. So I don't know what we're talking about with this, but this is... okay. Fine. Commanders, Ruben Bain at 7. I know there was a little bit of skeptics about his arm size, but just watch the dude play. Ruben Bain's a freak athlete. The other thing... I guess you could argue arm size matters. Like, remember, what was it? Will Campbell was struggling in the Super Bowl. That's probably just because Will wasn't fully healthy. Ruben Bain's a freak, dude. I think sometimes there are cases where physical stuff matters. Ruben Bain's not one of those. I just too much of a. too much of a monster. He's gonna end up in the top 10 regardless. As long as, again, I say that, as long as none of these draft prospects do anything stupid between now and late April, they're gonna be fine. Cardinal Tate at 8 to the Saints. I don't think Tate. I almost feel like Cardinal Tate doesn't fall to 8, but if he's able to go team up with Tyler Shuck, I'd watch the Saints again. I mean, I was already watching them when Chuck was playing, but my gosh, could you imagine? Could you imagine Shuck, Olave, and Tate? That could be fun. 2 former Ohio State products, and then just Tyler Shuck gripping it and ripping it. That wins. I'll argue this. I think that wins the NFC South, because I think the Saints win the NFC South next year, just because I don't buy into Carolina. I think it's either Atlanta or New Orleans. I don't think it's Tampa or Carolina. I think somebody different is going to be at the top this year. 9, the Chiefs. Jeremiah Love. I like Jeremiah Love. It just doesn't seem like something Kansas City would do. I mean, again, Kansas City's never had hasn't had this high of a pick, I think, since they drafted Mahomes. Since they drafted Mahomes, this is the highest they've ever been picking. And they didn't even have a bad season to have that 9th pick. They just traded up to, or the 10th pick when they drafted Mahomes, they went up and traded for him. This is like the lowest pick they've had since Mahomes, which is unbelievably ridiculous. I think it does work. I think it works for what they want. But I got to tell you, it feels, maybe it's a shift in culture, right? Because if you're Kansas City, you've kind of played with these meddling, mediocre running backs, like played around, like who were they playing with last year? Pacheco and Hunt. Like, yeah, brother, that clearly didn't work. You need to get something better. I wouldn't doubt it if they try for something. There's a chance. There's a real chance, but I know they're connected to Love. 9 seems almost high, but we'll see. See what they go there. 10, the Bengals, Caleb Downs. That's almost feels like a steal. I mean, I get why. The safety position is also going to be stacked this year. It's one of the best positions for this draft. Caleb Downs being among the best. I mean, not among the best, probably the best one. They've missed Jesse Bates, so I think this makes a lot of sense. I think they need help. They need significant help on the back end. They need a leader on defense. I think Caleb Downs makes a lot of sense for the Bengals. So I think that. Do they have any trades in this? Have they done trades? Doesn't look like they have. Not so far, no. Dolphins, Mansour Delane, LSU. One season does scare me a little on Delane, but overall, I can totally see it. I could definitely see Delane in a position where, he gets something done. I don't doubt that at all. I think it's high. I think it's a little high for a guy that's only a 1-year guy. LSU players usually do well, like especially in years past, but I think that'd be 12 Dallas. This one's funny to me just because they had Micah, right? And now they're gonna go for TJ Parker. I mean, maybe it's clean. It goes in right away. But TJ Parker a lot. Originally top 5 pick, he fell slightly. That does feel like a Jerry Jones pick. A player who's like, oh, he's going to be top 5, and then kind of slides in the draft, and then all of a sudden, we'll see. We'll see. I wish the best for TJ Parker, but I'm not buying into that either. The Rams. Oh, this is their pick because from. Oh, yeah, this is the pick they get from the Falcons, which kind of. Because they went and traded for. Was it Pierce, I want to say? Jermod McCoy, Tennessee. That's actually huge that they get a pick, yeah. Jeremiah McCoy out of Tennessee, though. Listen, they needed help at the back end. I mean, it's really why they aren't in the Super Bowl. Was because their defense let them down in so many spots last year. I mean, their defense let them down. Let's think about it. They let them down in Carolina. They let Bryce Young look like a super freak. Then you had the crazy, like giving up the Caleb Williams touchdown at the end. Like to go to overtime, almost lost it there. I know they came up clutch with Cameron Crowe pick in the overtime, but I mean, really, that game shouldn't even been gotten to that point. And then, of course, Sam Darnold was just able to pretty much do whatever he wanted. So 100% cornerback needs to be the adjustment here. Whether you like Jerron McCoy or not, cornerback 100% needs to be the adjustment for the Rams. Ravens, Olavaigu Iona. I actually don't know. You guys got to help me with these pronunciations because I don't know. I haven't been able to watch college football religiously this year, so they call him Vega Iona. Okay, that's better. That's better. Well, not better, but like at least I can pronounce that. I know I can pronounce that. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. But this will depend on what happens with Linderbaum, right? Like, isn't that kind of the main deal there? Depending on what happens with Linderbaum, if he leaves in free agency and goes sign somewhere else, then yeah. But I would imagine they'd want to try to keep Tyler and then pair him with Vega. So, but it makes sense. Another thing that makes sense, they were struggling in guard last year and they needed help in the running game as well. Kenyon Sadiq. I think it's Sadiq? Kenyon Sadiq, Oregon. I know Colston Loveland was good and it worked, and Tyler Warren was good and it worked. Tight ends early always scare me. Because, I mean, you know why? Especially when the Bucs are doing it, because I get O.J. Howard flashbacks. I don't even say that as a Bucs fan, but I know Bucs fans are going to get O.J. Howard flashbacks just based on the fact that they're taking a tight end in the first round. I mean, I remember they took O.J. Howard and Cameron Brate was still, like, better somehow. I don't know. Best tight end in the class, brings a butt-kicking mentality, is a blocker, and untapped potential as a pass catcher. I hope so. I hope he's a blocker, because if he's just, if he got the Kyle Pitts build, I'm not... I mean, but yeah, they're going to... Pass catcher makes sense. But, I mean, like... Bucs are going to be interesting next year, because let's say they do take someone like Kenyon. If you're going to pair... You're going to be losing Mike Evans. You're probably losing Chris Godwin, because I know Mike's going to test free agency. Chris Godwin's going to be out in free agency. You're basically leaving your number one receiver to be Emeka Egbuka, who did not play well the second half of the year. Maybe it's almost crazy, but I would have thought, like, I remember at the beginning of the year, we're talking the Bucs as, like, the best receiving room, and then all of a sudden everyone was not fully healthy, and then Emeka Egbuka fell off, and it just wasn't the same pass-catching group. And also, I think Baker wasn't fully healthy for a stretch of time there. His shoulder was clearly bothering him, especially after the Rams loss. We'll see what Kenyon's capable of. I actually think, again, though, like, I think it's possible, but I think the flashbacks of, oh yeah, O.J. Howard, it frightens me. Jets pick via the Colts. This is actually better than I would have thought that pick would have been, because I had the Colts in the playoffs. Jordan Tyson, Arizona State. I know there are a couple of, I don't want to say cult believers, but like basically very much people who buy into Jordan Tyson. I am one of those people. Like, I think a lot of people are saying, you talk about a potential top 10 pick overall, like a top 10 in the top 10. I know a lot of people are like on Cardinal Tate. But this kid makes it look easy sometimes. Like, sometimes this kid makes it look too easy. Listen, the last Arizona State guy that we really got that I remember was Brandon Ayuk. Jordan Tyson, I think, is better than Ayuk, to be honest. I think that's the consensus anyway, just coming out of college. I mean, look at that. Look at even the picture. Look at that man snagging that rock. Look at the strong little hands on that guy. I actually like that pick a lot for the Jets, because they need someone outside of Garrett Wilson to be catching passes, especially when he wasn't healthy this year. Lions, Keldrick Falk. Interesting. So, okay, and this is another thing. I'm not if this pick was a little higher, like if this was like closer to the teens, I'd be a little skeptical. But if you have a lot of potential in a guy, and once you get out of like the 20s or like close to the 20s, you start to kind of take a little bit of chances on a lot of these guys. I could see Falk pairing well nicely, especially alongside someone like Aiden Hutchinson. Because again, like, I tell you, man, you can never be short pass rushers. Vikings, Emmanuel McNeil Warren. This is exactly why Minnesota shouldn't be shy going back to the well. They're going to pick another. They have them picking another safety? Was their safety position really that bad at the back end? I mean, their defense was good, but maybe was it really just because of their front seven? I don't know. I do know the safety class is stack. EM Dub. You know what, that's his name. EM Dub. That's a mouthful. Emmanuel McNeil Warren, Toledo. Interesting that they have another. They would really think that the Vikings would go safety again, though. Interesting. Panthers D lineman Peter Woods. Is that really what they need, Carolina? Be honest. You really think that's what they need? I know they missed out on Milton Williams, but I mean, that's not even me saying. I'm just reading stuff. Running mate. I guess if you want to pair someone with Derek Brown, sure, but I feel like an edge defender would be a little better. And they're also allowing Ashawn Robinson to seek a trade. Not terrible, I guess. Not terrible. I don't know. It doesn't seem like... I guess it doesn't need to be a flashy pick. But it's fine. Cowboys... Oh, the Cowboys picked Avion Terrell. So the Cowboys did 2 Clemson guys. They... Really? Really? Jerry Jones going to take 2 Clemson guys? I mean, I get it. It's not like... Yeah. Shocking. Just a little shocked that would be the case, but... Oh well. Really got him taking 2 Clemson guys. That's fascinating. Oh, no. Dude, why do they have us taking Mekhi Lemon? I mean, I know we need a receiver, but brother... Oh, man, but his interviews were terrible. That's what everybody said, that he just didn't know... Oh, dude. Of course they're going to put him in Pittsburgh to pair with DK Metcalf. What a bunch of jerks. What a bunch of jerks over at BR just wanting the Steelers to have wide receiver drama. Oh, I'm over it. I'm already over it. Okay, Chargers, that's the most obvious pick in the world. And it could have been any lineman. It did not have to be a Bama lineman. Could have literally been any lineman and it would have been fine. Eagles, Monroe Freeling. Probably smart with Lane Johnson getting older and wanting to keep the offensive line intact. Probably a good move to go for a tackle, or if he needs to transition to guard, fine. But definitely smart to try to look to get the Lane Johnson move. Cleveland Browns. Oh, the Browns. Oh, yeah, because they have this pick via Jacksonville because Jacksonville gave it for Travis Hunter. Casey Concepcion. Texas A&M. They need a receiver. I mean, you could, again, Cleveland's also one of those teams where you could pretty much slot in anybody and then say, yeah, I think they need that. Jerry Jeudy was a nightmare. David Njoku's going to be leaving, most likely in free agency. You need at least another pass catcher to pair with probably Shador, who will be throwing the ball, is my guess, unless they draft yet another QB, which I wouldn't put it past them. But yeah, the Jared Jeudy was a drop nightmare. As someone whose team was named Judge Judy Hopps, it was a sad name to have because I don't even think I kept him. I think I did keep him the whole year, and I just never started him after like week 1. Bears, Dylan Feynman. Actually, again, another big safety. It's a big safety class. Dylan Feynman's gonna be interesting. I'm really shocked. Are they not? They're not keeping either one. They'll keep one of them. I mean, I know the Bears. I know Brisker and Byard are going into free agency, but they have to keep one. Why would they not keep? Why would they not keep at least one of them? Like, I can understand not keeping Byard and not wanting to overpay him, but I think Brisker's fine to keep in free agency and then go get Feynman. I mean, I agree with the pick. I mean, they gotta keep up the pressure on defense, considering. Well, but they'll be better offensively. They won't. I would imagine the Bears would be better offensively in 2026 to the point where they'll still be around the same record, but I don't think their defense will be as turnover enthusiastic as they were in years past. But that's not years past, but this past year. That would just be my guess. Bills, why? I mean, okay, put it this way. Aren't the Bills going to seriously need to address like wide receiver in the draft as opposed to edge? Am I wrong for saying that? Like, legitimately, I would make the case that you were undone in the playoffs because, well, A, Josh Allen was terrible, but B, because your receiving core was not nearly up to par, and we're going edge here? I mean, sure, yeah, I know you can get a lot of decent pass rushers, but and not that I don't even dislike Mesidor, but you need a receiver more than anything else. So why is Bleacher Report saying, well, the Bills are going to take an edge presence? For what? For who? For what reason? Some organization won't consider him as a possibility in the first round because he turns 25. Why would the Bills then? The Bills don't need, like, I'm not to say that they couldn't use an edge rusher, but why on earth wouldn't they just, oh, I don't know, draft a receiver? Because I'll tell you right now, the talent for wide receiver is not existing in free agency as much either. There's not like a big time wide receiver. Like, what, were we talking Tyreek Hill? Absolutely not. You think the Bills want another headache? Jay's also saying, oh, more BR. Yep, we got some more BR. Really, it's not even BR, it's BS. They were off by a letter. But yeah, we're just going through their most recent mock because I saw it drop earlier today while I was at work. So I'm just running through it now. It's actually like, I guess there's some things I have wrong with it. Some of it does, you could convince yourself that it makes sense, but that doesn't even make sense at all with it. I just saw Omar Cooper Jr. Like, yeah, why could you not have just had the Bills just draft Cooper Jr.? Why we got the 49ers doing it? I mean, I not to say that they don't need wide receiver too, but dude, you gonna tell me the Bills don't? Are you out of your mind? I mean, I guess, yeah, they've seen Debo go. They've seen Ayuk. They're pretty much done with the Ayuk experiment. Kittle's going to be nursing an injury next year. They need a pass catcher. It makes sense. But, I mean, Bill's got nobody in that building, man. Texans lineman, makes sense. Caleb Lomu out of Utah. Utes must have some decent linemen because it's the second one I've seen go in this first round. So, but no, they need to help C.J. Stroud by any means necessary. They need to help the coughing baby that's sitting back there in the pocket. It's nightmarish in many ways. I guess that would make sense. Rams, Ty Simpson. Okay. Here's the problem I have with that. If you're the Rams, don't you kind of feel like you're still a Super Bowl contender right now? And wouldn't you want to add a piece to try to go out and make the difference? I guess they kind of did that. I guess they do have 2 picks in this first round, so it kind of makes sense for them to maybe use at least one to invest in the future. But I find that that's kind of lame. I don't understand why you would do... teams that try to do both often end up accomplishing neither. Like, the Warriors tried it. The Warriors tried to win now and then prepare for later, and it didn't really work out that well. It ended up backfiring on them in a massive way, especially right now. Like, with the Kuminga trade and all that. Not that the Rams, it would necessarily blow up in their face. But I really don't understand why you would make one pick to commit to winning now, and then, but another pick to commit to the future. Just, like, pick one or the other. Don't pick both, you know? Not to say that, obviously, you couldn't keep, like, their first pick for longer, but it just doesn't make sense to me. Broncos, Caleb Banks. That'd actually be kind of I mean, do they need that? I guess you could say they could. At this point, again, like, you're at the back half of the first round, so you might be just going for best player available. But if you're going to be completely honest about someone like, say, Caleb Banks, Broncos already have, like, I mean, I guess you pair him with Zach Allen in the interior and just make it impossible for teams to run on you then, if you think that's your one weakness. So that should be interesting. Yeah, I guess you could argue they take a risk, but I mean, they could still improve. Like, offensively, I don't think they're the strongest positionally. Like, yeah, they're decent offensively, but I wouldn't say they have like a top 10. They have a great offensive line and like a top 14 quarterback, but like they don't. Courtland Sutton's good. I don't think Courtland Sutton's the same kind of level of production guy that's like any higher than most. So, Patriots. Chris Brazzell the second. Yeah, they will. Honestly, I'm surprised you wouldn't at least consider O-line here, based on what you saw from the Patriots in the Super Bowl. Because you could argue that's the main reason they lost. But I mean, yeah, another receiver would help, especially because there's no there's rumors that they may not keep Diggs long term. So that one's also a possibility. Yeah, right here. Yep, they're even talking about it right here. They could be losing Stephon Diggs this offseason. That makes sense. And finally, who do the Seahawks take? Malachi Fields, another receiver, trying to pair someone up with JSN. I don't hate that at all. Because, I mean, Rashid Shaheed's a free agent, I believe. I mean, do we really going to buy into Jake Bobo that much? Probably not. Yeah, I think with Rashid Shaheed departing in free agency, I think this one also makes sense. Not terrible, Bleacher Report. Not awful, but that Bills pick was super head scratching. A couple of these were like some of them made sense, but I also like why did Arvo Reese fall to 3? Is Bailey really that much of a possibility at 2? I really would have just thought Reese would have been the number 2 pick, but let's take a look at some of the other ones. Just round 2, just kind of gonna breeze these over, see if I notice anything interesting. Mostly just looking right at the Steelers picks. Corner Malik Muhammad. Okay. We definitely do need cornerback help for sure. Get some of these other. Dude, I like that name, Michael Trigg. Cyrus Allen. Okay, so they had the Bills taking a wide receiver in round 2. I don't know. I mean, I guess you could make, they drafted Keon Coleman in round 1, and look how well that's turned out. Dude, different draft, different year. Just because one receiver doesn't work out doesn't mean they can't have another receiver do well and take one in the first round. Like, ridiculous stuff. Where do they have any other quarterbacks go? Denzel Boston. And then round 3. Whoa. Okay, hold on, pause. I'm seeing some interesting things here. Drew Aller? I wouldn't hate getting Aller in maybe the 3rd round, but again, like I don't want to overbid on Aller. Like I know Aller's getting a lot of cred, but like if somehow Drew Aller shoots up into like the 2nd round, then it's not worth it. Drew Aller is no higher than a 3rd rounder, and honestly, I'd much rather look for day 3 if I'm trying to get him, but because I'm not fully bought in entirely on that. Let's see, and then Garrett Nuss. Where do they have Beck going in drafts? Because I know that was a name that was mentioned as a. I think Drew Aller was the one I missed in terms of what the Steelers were looking for in terms of long-term, maybe a long-term answer at the quarterback position. But no Beck. At least I didn't see anything. I mean, it kind of makes sense that he's probably more of a day 3 pick. But I would think with how poor the quarterback market is, I would still expect teams to reach. Like, yes, the draft quarterback market is bad, but if you really need a guy, you would at least maybe reach a little, you would think. I don't know. I don't got, sometimes you just don't have all the answers, Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Today I don't. Well, I had some decent ones. Outside of that, where are we? 8:08. Dang. 8:08 p.m. We have been going for an hour and 8 minutes. I was glad I was able to get finally back on a Tuesday. It had been a while since, it had been a couple weeks. So we were able to wrap up episode number 66. Which I'm very excited for. Man, it's another day where I've been yapping a lot. Because I was yapping today. I think it was yapping today. I was training someone, and then I had to run errands right after work. And a lot of talking, a lot of stuff going down. But as always, I appreciate y'all for showing out for a little primetime pot for today. Well, today's primetime podcast. Yesterday was free refill, and then Thursday I'll be back with more free refill. It'll be a new 2-day excursion, looking to catch you guys up on all the worlds of football. Also, there's some closing little comments that I wasn't able to get to today. I watched Nuggets Jazz, expecting the Nuggets to blow them out in the second half. That didn't happen. Are the Nuggets? I mean, Nuggets struggled with Utah. I've seen some stuff about how Jokic is not shooting well in the clutch on his 3-point shot. Like, it's down at like 20% for him in the clutch, which is kind of crazy. He's not trusting his 3-point shot. I presume that he'll have that'll be different come when we get closer to the playoffs, but I don't know, man. Nuggets could be a surprise first round exit depending on who they get. I mean, it would really depend on who they get. The only team I could really see it doing is guaranteed, like as much of a likely option, could be like the Timberwolves, but a lot would have to happen. Anything else that I'm just thinking about if I missed? Oh, Drew Dahlman randomly retired after getting a $42 million deal. That kind of came out of nowhere. Huge blow for the Chicago Bears moving forward. So now all of a sudden, offensive line could definitely be something to question. I so poorly misspelled Giannis's name. Good lord, did it autocorrect to that? I'm just gonna. Oh, it doesn't really matter now, but wow, holy guacamole, that's crazy. Man, every time I do that title, I just try to rush it in, do it as quick as I can. I always end up missing something. But you know what? We persevere. We got it right. And then of course with baseball coming up, I mean huge suspensions. I saw Johan Rojas. I think there was someone else too. I want to say where was it? I had it listed somewhere. Yeah, it was Jurgensen Profar suspended. I think basically the whole year for PEDs. We're getting to that time. Baseball season starting. Suspensions are being dealt out, handed out. Here we go. Oh, but I appreciate you guys for watching. Seriously, I'll be back Thursday for another episode of Free Refill. So be prepared for that. Getting close to episode 50 on that too, which means like there have been like over 100 total episodes of just both these shows combined, and it makes me very excited to know that that's a big accomplishment for me. So I'm very happy that I've been able to keep doing what I do. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in. I will be around on Thursday, so make sure you're tuned in for that. And of course, y'all have a lovely evening, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.